Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland. And this week we're going to be talking about the new releases for this weekend of March 5th. And continuing my series on the Coen brothers filmography, we're going to be talking about Barton Fink, which for me personally is one of my favorite of the Coen brothers films. And it has a special place because it is an introduction to one of their longest collaborators, Roger Deakins. And then I'll be wrapping up with some questions from all of you. So let's get started in talking about coming attractions for this weekend. And there's quite a few films that are making their rounds. The SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run is finally getting released in America. Apparently, it already came out in Canada, but now it's being released on Paramount Plus, which, of course, I'm going to be getting starting this week. So I will be watching the Sponge on the Run film. There's a bunch of smaller films. Truffle Hunters is finally coming out, and I'm really looking forward to that documentary. There's a Frank Grillo, Mel Gibson Hulu film, Boss Level, coming out. Boogie, which is a film that I got to screen early, which is a wonderful little film. You have Chaos Walking, which has been a tumultuous filming and finally getting released with two of Hollywood's fastest rising stars in Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. You also have Coming to America, which I was so close for picking this one to be my little spiel, but I'm still going to love watching it on Prime. And then we have Raya and the Last Dragon, which I am super excited about this because basically anything Disney puts out in terms of animation, whether it's Disney animation or Pixar, I'm excited for. And this looks epic and exciting and beautiful and amazing world building. And this is coming out on Disney Plus Premier Access. So there goes $29.99 from my bank account, or it's going to be in theaters as well. And this film has for the record, has four directors. Directors or co-directors: Don Hall, Carlos Lopez Estrada, Paul Briggs, and John Ripa. So there's a lot of cooks in this kitchen. Hopefully that's not a bad thing. And this film has a great cast because we have Kelly Marie Tran, Aquafina, Gemma Chan, Daniel Day Kim, Benedict Wong, Sandra Oh, and of course, Disney's animation special little lucky charm, I guess, Alan Tudyk. And this film is in a realm known as Kumandra, a reimagined Earth inhabited by an ancient civilization. A warrior named Raya is determined to find the last dragon. And it looks exciting. It looks like a large world building and different civilizations and different groups of people. The dragon is a really cool design. There looks like there's going to be some fantastic action and some humor, and I'm sure there'll be tension and action and adventure filling up this. This is an hour and 54-minute film. So this is not like your standard little animated film hit 90 minutes. So I'm expecting something epic here, and I'm very excited. So go check it out. Don't know if you're going to be one of the ones paying $30 to watch it on Disney Plus early, but I know I will be. Now, getting into our film of the week, we have Barton Fink. And this is a film, from what I understand, was not meant to be the Coen brothers' next film after Miller's Crossing, but, they experienced their own issues with trying to write, having that writer's block. And this film is about a renowned New York playwright, Barton Fink, played by John Turturro, which I'll get into more, but this is definitely one of Turturro's strongest roles and leading performances, and he really carries this film. And he is whisked off from his life as a playwright on the stage in New York City, out to Los Angeles, into Hollywood, gets put up at this hotel, which, I think there's two people in this whole hotel, including Chet, who's played by Steve Buscemi, who's the bellhop, and our friend John Goodman. And we'll definitely be talking about him. as Charlie Meadows. Now, Barton's out here and he gets this job at this big studio to write. And, he spends his whole entire film trying to write this, building this relationship with Charlie, building this relationship with Audrey, who's married to this famous writer and she's played by Judy Davis. The cast is impeccable here. But one of the big things that I want to talk about here is because this is a drastic shift for the Coen brothers, because the first couple of films they did, it's exaggerated, the cinematography, it's bold, it's big. Here's the thing. It was bright, and once Roger Deakins comes in and becomes the cinematographer for the Coen brothers, the visual style, it's still there. It's still very much Coen's, but it's richer, it's textured, it's something that feels on a whole different level of which Deakins brings to all of his films. There's something impeccable about the cinematography in a Roger Deakins film. And you combine him with the Coen brothers, there's something special here. And this film, the production design, specifically anywhere you go in this film, it just breathes the era. Because this is right around the start of World War II, us getting involved. The early 1940s, this late 1930s, early 1940s, this is a beautiful time in terms of just everybody's clothes and the aesthetic. You see this big studio, this big office, and you see this hotel that's it looks like it should be beautiful. The design is beautiful, but it's run down. It's old. It's hollow. And there's this running theme throughout the film of the wallpaper peeling off, just disgusting. The adhesive is melting away. And every time it happens, Barton's just completely transfixed by it and taking him away from his writing. And Deakins is able to capture everything. Some of the most haunting imagery in any Coen brothers film is in Barton Fink. And he makes his presence noticed with his first film with the Coen brothers. You still have Carter Burwell, which the score is fantastic. It's rich. It has an ambiance to it. It has a feeling to it. It has emotion to it. And also a sense of dread. Because whether it's something violent coming or it's just the inevitability of this writer's block that just keeps pulling and pulling Barton from his work. You just feel it in how it's shot, the music. This film is fantastic in how that's constructed. Now, getting back to the characters, you have Barton. John Turturro is fantastic here. He exudes this pompousness, this self-assuredness, but then you see the insecurity, you see the layers being pulled back and him feeling like he might not be able to do something, but then he always whips himself back and just reassures himself that how great he is. And this character is so important because he is a privileged individual. He is a writer. He is an artist. He's an intellectual, but he thinks he speaks for the everyman. And that's so important to this film because him and this relationship he has with John Goodman's character, Charlie Meadows, it just breathes out through that because he believes he knows the people and he is a writer of the proletariat. He tells the story of the common man, but he never listens to the common man. And you see that in how he always cuts off Charlie when they're chatting because they first meet because Barton's trying to type and somebody's having a little too much fun down the hall. He calls Chet at the desk. And then this is so amazing. You didn't need to see Charlie coming out of his room and stomping down the hall. All you needed was Barton looking at the wall. You hear the door slam. Thump, thump, thump. The sound design in this film is perfect because all we need to be is feeling the situation and you know a force is coming. And John Goodman, if you need a force of a character that's larger than life, that just fills the frame, John Goodman is the perfect choice every time. And him as Charlie Meadows, he's so relatable. You just love this man because at first he's intimidating. He's a mammoth of a man. And he has this absurd moment wrestling with Barton, and like he pins him flat, and just the force of him slamming his down and the camera putting right down at them. But their exchanges, Charlie is somebody who is a common man. He exudes it, or at least the audience believes he does. And as he's talking, he's finally going to he's going to share his stories. He has the gift of gab. And I love that phrase from another great Coen Brothers film, which we'll be getting to in a few weeks. But every time he tries to open up about his stories, Barton comes in and cuts him off, telling him how he is the voice of the common man and how he knows them, but he never listens to them. And that comes all the way back at the end of this film, which we'll get to. But in terms of this film, you have these two characters. You have this wonderful cast of characters. You come in to the studio and you meet Michael Lerner's Jack Lipnick. And Lipnick is another larger-than-life character. And he is just a force. He is a bull. He is barreling through every scene with this force, this character who's like, I know an artist, and the artist is first here at Art Pictures. And just Michael Lerner and John Goodman are two of the best supporting performances in Coen Brothers films, and they're just so powerful and larger than life, the characters, and you just have this performance. And Barton here is just so overwhelmed. Usually a man who's all about his words and everything is just kind of like sitting small in his chair because he can't even breathe in the presence of Lipnick, because Lipnick fills the void and takes all the energy out of the scene, and Lerner just plays it to perfection. And even when he takes a harsh swing towards the end of the film in his relationship with Barton, you kind of are afraid of him, and you never know how he's going to react to something. And that builds some amazing tension throughout the film, including one of the best scenes, which is at a pool, at his pool, with him in his bathrobe and his swim trunks that are halfway up his belly because he's a large man. But you have Lerner, but you also have John Polito coming back from Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing, he was a force. Here, he's a really small character. And there's moments where Lou Breeze, his character, who used to be a big man in Hollywood, but now Lerner is the big man in Hollywood. And he is a shadow of himself. And the way he walks and how he carries himself and just the way that he talks to people, that just captures everything you need to know about this character. And that's what, and you're gonna hear this from me so many times on the show, how much I love the Coen Brothers, because that is always true. Every character has their place. You have the man, Ben Geisler, who's Tony Shalhoub, who's working directly with Barton Fink on this particular film. And he has energy. He is sassy. And he's just a fast talker. And Tony Shalhoub is just a character in this film. And he is kind of where you get this performance from Lerner as Lipnick. You get this performance by Lipnick. But Geisler's the one, this is how it really is. And he gives so much perspective on the studio. And he's just a fun character. And then, really, the other characters we have left to introduce is this interesting couple. Because Barton is at a restaurant with Geisler, goes into the bathroom. Somebody is yakking in the toilet. And this was pre-prepared. Like, there's a folded out handkerchief. He's kneeling on it and throwing up. Sets up some interesting character development for this character before we even see him. We just see his legs under the stall, and he comes out, and it's John Mahoney as W.P. Mayhew. I love John Mahoney. He's so great in Frasier as the dad, and he's such a different character here. He is like He's a screenwriter, he's a novelist, he is a famous writer, and he's just an alcoholic and just a mess of a man. But he's in this white suit and he looks so prim and proper. And he just talks like this. And it's like, thank you very much. When Barton gives him this immaculate praise in the bathroom after he just heard him like throwing up in the stall. But Mahoney, his character, Mayhew, is just a drunk. He is a mess. But Judy Davis's character, Audrey, is there. And you have this, why is she with him? And this is such a great tale of who's really the creative force in the relationship. And at this time, is it really going to be a woman getting the credit for things? And you have this budding relationship with Barton Fink and Audrey throughout the film. And there's something special there. You can tell that Barton really appreciates who she is. Because the thing is, right off the bat, Barton can be so pretentious and unlikable, and you're just like, why do I care about this character? But you appreciate the fact that he's chasing his dreams of telling his stories, even though he's completely misguided in his perspective on the world. But he also has these feelings for this woman that feel so genuine, and he appreciates her for her beauty and her personality and her work. And that's something special because Mayhew only appreciates her for a few of those things and acknowledges her for a few of those things, and probably the least important ones. And you have throughout this film, there's no this is not a plot-driven film. This is very much character interactions, building this character of Barton Fink through his interactions with different characters. And throughout the film, you feel you're just in this space, this atmosphere, and you have these budding relationships, and then things start to change. And spoiler alert. So like up to this point, I've mostly talked about some general things and characters and interesting things like that. It's impeccably filmed. Like the pacing is great. This is a zippy 2 hours going through with these characters, larger than life characters. But now, if you want to continue, what happens next is so crazy. Barton, all this time, has been dealing with these mosquitoes planted throughout the film of him in his room. He's starting to get bug bites. He sleeps with Audrey. There's a bug on her, and he slaps the bug on her. She doesn't budge. And then blood starts pouring out from under her. She's been murdered. She has been murdered. And you're sitting there like, where is this movie going? And then Barton reacts, and like before, you don't need to see, but you hear a door. You hear the thunderous stomping of Charlie Meadows down the hall. And Goodman comes in and just like, whoa, runs into the bathroom and throws up. But he puts Barton in the bathroom and he takes care of things. Charlie disappears for a while. Cops start showing up. Charlie might not be exactly who he is. He isn't this insurance salesman that he keeps, or he might be, but he's something else too. Because these women, these housewives, keep disappearing, winding up dead, winding up without heads. And then you start to realize something crazy is happening. And now we have two sequences that are so important for me to talk about why this film is so elevated for me among Coen Brothers films. One, Barton's in his room. The cops are there. They found some evidence of they think he's working with John Goodman's character. And all of a sudden, you hear the elevator going. The cops go out into the hallway. This is a long, creepy, and just strangely wallpapered hallway. And you stare down the hall and you're waiting. Something's hot. Something's burning. And you walk out into the hall. The elevator opens. There's flames starting to fill the hallway. Smoke pouring out of the elevator. And then all of a sudden, Goodman walks out, cocks a giant shotgun and blows one of the cops away. Flames light the whole entire hallway. This is one of the most amazingly beautiful shots I've seen in a film. Just this flaming hallway and John Goodman standing there with his larger than life personality, his presence, his demeanor, his body filling the screen. And he just starts barreling down the hall yelling. And it is unnerving and beautiful all at the same time. He kills the other cop. He comes into Barton's room and he just bursts on Barton. It's like, you never listen. And you're just like, that's it. This whole entire time, Barton finally is confronted with his own hypocrisy in that moment by a man who seemed to be just the common man, but is a serial killer. Charlie left him a box. What's in this wrapped package box? He tells him, I visited your family in New York. You never know. You know that he kills people and beheads them. Barton can't get in touch with his family. Charlie lets him go. Charlie just goes back into his room. Was the hotel on fire for real? Or are we just feeling that? Is that just hell arriving with this man? And that's one of the most interesting things about the film. And I like the question, is it really on fire? And if you've seen the film, I wonder what your thoughts are. But now we're at this point where Barton has this wrapped package. He had finally finished his script. And it was supposed to be a wrestling picture, just this wrestling picture. But he got so caught up in just the nature of what he wants to tell and his story, and he gives his script. And it's like a really human drama, just happens to have a wrestler in it. Lipnick is singing a different tune. And he tells him, I could get any of those playwrights out of New York. I could get any Barton Fink. You will learn this lesson. And basically tells him, you want to do this artful crap? You were supposed to write a wrestling picture. Write what the studio tells you. And he's like, you're not going to be fired. But everything you do is going to be owned by the studio until you learn your lesson. And anything you produce will not be produced by the studio. And Lipnick is now in this this general's outfit that he got made in costume for him after volunteering for the U.S. military reserves. And he's just standing there like this dictator. You see his true colors. He's in that costume. That's the man he really is. And Barton is just, he can't get in touch with his family. The woman he loves is dead. Thought he was his best friend, a serial killer. Nobody wants to produce his scripts. He goes to the beach. And this whole entire film, there's a little picture in his hotel room. The woman sitting on the beach looking out into the water. He's sitting on the beach. He has the box with him. Young woman shows up. What's in the box? He doesn't know. We don't know. We never find out. And she kind of turns around and looks out. And you get that shot. And Barton's still in the same place he's been all this time. Looking into that picture, looking out into the sea. And this film is not the most mainstream of stories that the Coen brothers have told, but it has feeling, it's poignant, it has great characters. I love it every second of this film. And one of the most amazing things, the final shot, she's looking out. This seagull dive bombs, or it might have been a pelican, dive bombs into the water to get a fish. And you're just like, they got so lucky with that shot. And that's just a small thing to cap off a fantastic film. But this is a beautifully shot, moving, character-driven story. It has twists and turns. And spoiler done. Obviously now, so spoiler done. If you haven't seen Barton Fink, go check out this film. It is fantastic. And I would love to talk about it. So always comment. But that's our film of the week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Hudsucker Proxy, which I've only seen once. I'm going to be rewatching it again. It's definitely the most mainstream of Coen Brothers films. So I'm interested to see how I feel about it the second time, because I wasn't the hugest fan the first time I watched the film, but I look forward to talking about it. Now, time for Q&A. So somebody asked, John asked, most anticipated films 2021. So I don't know if I specifically talked about this, but as of now, A24's The Green Knight, that trailer sold me in a second. I cannot wait for that film. It looks crazy and just dives deep into this dark fantasy adventure and about the search for the Green Knight by Sir Gawain, and Dev Patel's in it, and just a fantastic cast. It looks so creepy and unnerving and interesting and engaging. You have The French Dispatch, which anything Wes Anderson, I'm 100% down, and I can't wait for that film to come out. The cast is just out of this world. I cannot wait for that film to come out, and I've been waiting so long. French Dispatch, I'm really looking forward to No Time to Die when this Bond movie finally comes out. I'm a huge Bond fan. I've been a Bond fan since I was a little kid. I think ever since I was like 8 years old, I've been watching James Bond movies, and I cannot wait for that to come out. Like, I was 6 when I was, actually, no, I was probably younger. Jeez. When did GoldenEye come out, the game? Because I was playing that as a kid, and I watched the movie too. So I was young. So I've been watching James Bond movies for a long time. And I can't wait for the Marvel films. Eternals is getting me really excited. I've been hearing some amazing things about it. That Shang-Chi, No Way Home for Spider-Man, and Black Widow. I'm a huge MCU fan, so I can't wait for those films. So those are some of my most anticipated films of this year so far. Left, hopefully they'll come out this year, but we'll have to see. But I'm very excited about them. And now my other question. So favorite film community content. So I wanted to share some shout outs. So I've been listening to this podcast, The Cinephiles. It is my favorite thing in film community because Steve Morris and John Roca and all their awesome guests that they bring on to talk about, like, honestly, they're a big influence on me wanting to do this show, diving deep into a particular film. And hopefully I'll be having some guests on soon. I think my friend Matt, who you all know from my podcast and from my interview with him on Lost in the Wasteland, should be joining for Fargo, hopefully. But I listened to, like, I'm on episode 55 at this point, the Iron Man episode. I've listened to all of them, and I plan on catching up to all 200 some odd episodes because I just loved hearing them talk about a movie passionately, drilling deep down into this film for like an hour to 2+ hours for some of the episodes. And it's so great. And if you love film, both of them love film so much, and you just get a wonderful perspective on film. In terms of other podcasts, obviously the Sif Pop Writers Room with Aaron and everybody that writes with me at Sif Pop coming on. I know just recently had some quick reviews of Cherry and Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, coming out on there. It's always great to do content with Aaron, but it's a great show, and you get so many different perspectives because there's so many different writers there, and each week you get a new person talking about some new ideas and different films and different content. It's a great show, so go check it out. Now, some of my favorite YouTubers, I've always been a huge fan of Chris Stuckman, and I appreciate his perspective on film. Breakfast All Day, what used to be What the Flick. I love listening to Matt, Christie, and Alonzo talking about film, and they're great together, and they give different perspectives, and sometimes they argue about why their perspectives are different. And it's a great way to look into film. And some of the Instagram people that I follow, so my friend Kristen with Miss Flamingo, I really enjoy her reviews. She puts out some great content. I love Math Teacher Movies, so Sean is fantastic if you haven't checked out his page. And I love the structure of how he does his reviews with like sliding through with blurbs on each of the pictures and breaking things down that way. He does some great content like who should have won, like Oscars, who should have been nominated. So stuff like that, Monologue Monday, Final Frame Friday. I really enjoy his content. Magic of Film, though, is probably the biggest one that I follow on Instagram with all of his content. They're doing the animation tournament right now. They're going to be putting in ballots soon for the in Filmstagram 100. If you haven't followed his page, please do so and join in the fun with the Filmstagram Movie Club. And it's a great time getting to look into a film that you might not have seen before or maybe not even heard of. And it's in like 2 weeks ago was a 4-hour 4-hour Japanese film. This week was a 1-hour little animated film that was a lot of like hand drawn stick figures and stuff like that. But they're both great in their own way. And that's the awesome thing about it. And then throw in some shout outs to my friends at Sif Pop, just Sif Pop in general, which Ben Davis and Robert are putting it all together for us. And Ben has his Ben Davis podcast. Robert has Robert Thoughts. They're both great. They give awesome perspectives on movies, and they're just a fun time to interact with. My friend Austin from ABM, so Austin B Media, go check out his content. He puts out a lot of great content as well. And all the other people that put out great content, and, check out all the things that I have going on in my YouTube channel and Instagram. So it's shout out week for everyone. So I like to shamelessly plug things. And one other YouTube channel. So Isaac, the Film Geek, he's a good kid. Realized that I'm almost 10 years older than him when I was interviewing him. And he is a fun time. He puts out some fun reviews, gives fun perspectives. So go check out his YouTube channel. But I think that's it for this week on Welcome to the Wasteland. And next week, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Hudsucker Proxy and continuing our deep dive into the Coen Brothers. I appreciate being able to do this and people actually watch my content. And, my YouTube channel is almost up to 250 subscribers. I've almost jumped 50 in the past 2 months. Makes me so happy. It's really like coming off the ground now. And I think that's really awesome. And I appreciate all of you for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.